my full-time job became managing Puff, and I was doing other things. So even when I let Puff go, for the whole time he was let go, he was always on payroll. I never stopped paying him until he found his next spot. His artists were always still getting per diem, because I didn't do it to hurt him, but
Obviously.
I knew it was time for him to grow. And the only way he could grow was if he was going to have the same kind of corporate conversations that I was subjected to. And then he would understand what he could and could not do.
You got a guy named Anthony Wolf Jones, who was from Bad Boy, from its conception as doing security and being one of the financiers of Puff having to have some money to keep Big and Craig Mack around before he got to Clyde Davis.
All of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is, TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
3 minutes ago, Gene Deal released another set of explosive claims, and once again, the conversation around Seam Diddy comms is growing louder, wider, and far more uncomfortable for the entertainment industry. Deal isn't just another voice on the internet. He once worked as Diddy's personal bodyguard during the era of Bad Boy Records, close enough to witness how power truly operated behind the scenes. According to him, the public only saw a polished surface version of Diddy. Behind that image, he says, was a story shaped by powerful mentors, learned behavior, and an industry that often chose to look the other way. Deal argues that Diddy didn't become who he was by chance. He claims that the behavior now being questioned was modeled early in his career, normalized by the environment around him, and sometimes even rewarded. From his time at Uptown Records to the rise of Bad Boy Records, Deal describes a culture driven by influence, ambition, and moral compromise. His comments arrive after Diddy's October 2025 conviction and 50-month prison sentence, which many people now see as validation of rumors that circulated for years but were rarely addressed publicly. What makes Deal's latest remarks stand out is that he isn't focusing only on Diddy. Instead, he is pointing to broader systems, mentors, celebrities, and industry structures that he believes helped shape the culture of that era. He has also criticized major documentaries for what he says they have left out, particularly when it comes to responsibility, accountability, and the people whose lives were affected. For Deal, this discussion isn't about gossip. In his view, it's about power, silence, and how long influence can shield the truth before it eventually comes to light.
Gene Deal, let's get right into it. Diddy, he got indicted. You called it, man. A few weeks ago, you was on the platform and you said that he was going to get arrested in September.
Yeah, man. Anybody who in law enforcement or people know the law, when Homeland Security ran up into his house, people will tell you, or people knew that it was just a matter of time that they was going to indict him and bring him in to see the judge, bro. It was just a matter of time. I just figured out with the grand jury and their different sessions and stuff like that, and then what one of the witnesses told me, I just figured it out that it was going to be around September that they were going to bring him in, bro. People might not understand. It's difficult when you see a brother that has so much promise become an icon as far as in the music business and stuff that he did, to turn around and just tear his whole life down. But it's all because of his mentors and the people that trained him and taught him the music business. You know, it's all about the people who trained and taught him the music business, because Puff wasn't, he wasn't born a monster. You know what I'm saying? He was made into a monster, brother. Do you understand what I'm saying? He was made into a monster from the stuff that happened to him, the things that he had to do. You understand? The things that he had to do to become who he is. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's like this, brother. You never like something so much that you can't do without, and you never be willing to do anything to get where you want to be at. You got to have principles. You got to have morals. You got to keep with that stuff. And in that music business, a lot of that stuff get thrown out the window. You understand? And that's what happened to him. He started doing the things to other people that was done to him. To keep it frank, he was doing the things to other people that was done to him. And it is what it is. You got to know better. And if you know better, you will do better. When he was in New York City, he was like that gecko from the Geico commercial. Then he turned and started going, when he lived in Cali and Miami, he turned into Godzilla. I would see him talk about how he using drugs. He was never like that. Smoking cigarettes, smoking weed and everything like that. He turned into something that you could consider a monster, bro. Then he started doing things to people, you understand, that he learned. That's a learned behavior, bro. Now, I'm not saying that he may have been doing a couple of things here and there with women, stuff like that in New York, but the things that they're talking about that he was doing, bringing in prostitutes to have sex with his girl and all that stuff like that, that was some crazy stuff to me, man. So I'm just looking at this whole thing, man, and you had asked me, and we don't have these conversations like most people do. We're going to go back and you're going to tell me what, we're going to talk about this. You said, I'm going to ask you how you feel, bro.
Dean Deal's central claim is straightforward, but significant. He believes that seeing Diddy Combs learned much of his behavior by observing the powerful figures above him in the industry. According to Deal, when Diddy first began working at Uptown Records under Andre Harrell, he was quiet, highly observant, and extremely ambitious. Deal describes him as a gecko, Somion who stayed in the background, carefully watching everything and learning how influence and power operated behind the scenes. But Deal says that phase didn't last forever. As Diddy's career expanded, especially after moving between places like Los Angeles and Miami, that quiet observer transformed. In Deal's words, the gecko eventually became Godzilla, reflecting how the once watchful newcomer evolved into a much more dominant and powerful figure in the industry.
Like, I had an artist in the building, right? Because Puff, as an executive, he really is a very artistic guy. He can make videos, he can style. So I started to branch out in the movies and the television. So then Puff wouldn't really listen to anybody but me. So my full-time job became managing Puff, and I was doing other things. So even when I let Puff go, for the whole time he was let go, he was always on payroll. Mm-hmm. I never stopped paying him until he found his next spot. His artists were always still getting per diem, because I didn't do it to hurt him, but obviously, I knew it was time for him to grow. And the only way he could grow was if he was going to have the same kind of corporate conversations that I was subjected to. Mm-hmm. And then he would understand what he could and could not do. And the final straw for me was when MCA wanted me to not put out the Biggie Smalls album because they didn't like the subject matter. And they wanted me to tell him he's got to change his tone. And it wasn't up to me, I felt, to tell a generation what they could and could not do artistically. Mm-hmm. So I knew it wasn't going to work because he was coming from a new space and a new era. The Dr. Dre Chronic album that came out, and that was a major influence over music. So whereas I had Heavy D, who was more like a happy, female-loving, uplifting kind of celebratory artist, Puff's Heavy D was Biggie Smalls. Yeah. And Biggie Smalls was more like in the streets and telling street stories, and he told them well.
And that was a transition in hip-hop.
And big in New York.
Yeah.
For New York. And Biggie Smalls ended up becoming my favorite rapper of all time. Mm-hmm. But I didn't want to sit there and be the one confining Puff because the corporation was telling me to do that. I'm not built that way. Mm-hmm. So I told Puff he needs to go and create his own opportunity. You red hot. I'm really letting you go so you could get rich.
Yeah, and he did, and you guys together, you did as well.
Gene Deal alleges that influential figures such as Andrew Harrell, Russell Simmons, and Clive Davis helped create industry environments where questionable behavior was often treated as normal. According to Deal, these powerful executives operated with little real accountability, and he believes seeing Diddy comms followed the same blueprint as his career grew. Deal says he personally witnessed situations that made him uneasy at the time. Looking back, he now believes those moments played a role in shaping Diddy's mindset, particularly his views on control, excess, and a sense of entitlement that came with power in the entertainment world.
When I seen Puff on camera smoking a cigarette, and I said, that's not the Puff that I know. To smoke a cigarette? I believe that opioids addiction changed his whole life and changed who he was. He's quietly an addict. So is he responsible for some of the shit that he did? Because of his addiction, yes, he is. But it has a lot to do with drugs, bruh. And that brother might need some help.
Well, do you see any legal problems coming from any of this?
It's based on what they find in discovery. We know that we have people that's putting a civil suit against them. We know there's people that's putting a civil suit against them. But in that civil suit, if they find something criminal, then there might be a prosecutor who say, yo, listen to me. I want to bring this in.
Gene Deal further alleges that behind closed doors in the music industry, drug use, the mistreatment of women, and exploitative business tactics were often treated as normal. According to him, once seen Diddy comms gained real power, his behavior shifted. Deal claims that instead of quietly observing and copying what he had learned, Diddy began to escalate it. Deal says private gatherings grew more extreme, loyalty became something that was demanded rather than earned, and silence was rewarded. He emphasizes that this context does not excuse Diddy's actions. Instead, Deal argues that it helps explain how unchecked power can reproduce itself within influential circles. In his view, Diddy is responsible for his choices, but the culture that shaped him also carries part of the blame. Now that Diddy has been convicted, Deal believes the industry can no longer pretend that this behavior appeared out of nowhere. He argues that someone taught it, others allowed it, and many people benefited from staying silent. One of the most painful events Deal revisits is the tragedy at the 1991 charity basketball game at City College of New York. During that event, 9 people, many of them teenagers, died in a stampede. Deal insists that this incident should never be treated as a minor footnote in history. According to him, the tragedy revealed early warning signs of negligence, ego, and poor decision-making that he believes later followed Diddy throughout his career. Deal claims that his security team had been removed the day before the event. He also alleges that exit doors were mishandled during the chaos and that financial priorities were placed above crowd safety. While versions of these claims have circulated for years, Deal argues that they are still largely avoided in mainstream discussions. This criticism is one reason he has spoken out about the Netflix documentary produced by 50 Cent and released in December 2025. Deal says the film focused on surface-level information while avoiding deeper questions of accountability. According to him, important names, detailed timelines, and certain pre-arrest footage were left out. Details he believes could have significantly changed the public's understanding of the events surrounding Diddy's rise in controversies.
50, how'd you get it, and what does that scene show?
Well, I mean, you're a journalist, Harvey. Harvey, you would not disclose your sources.
We usually don't.
Yeah, but I got it. Yeah.
What he said.
and what do you think it conveys? Because we see someone trying to pull the strings and talking about, he would say affecting, others would say manipulating the public views of the allegations.
I think that, one big theme of the series is to go behind the scenes to really understand how brilliant you could say Sean Combs is at marketing, at owning his narrative, controlling the narrative at all times. And so why would that stop, when his life is on the line? So I think that, on its face, that's what it is. But as you get deeper in the film, you start to realize, perhaps how some of these tactics, how they really came to present themselves, during the trial.
You show that his abilities, his early rise. Right. Alexandra, you also give time to victims of the alleged abuse. Some of the cases are in different procedural postures. And you show victims who were women and men. Why is that important?
Because, victims of sexual assaults, sexual violence, gender should not be a part of that conversation. When you are a victim, you are a victim. And I think that, this series was a platform in a way for these alleged victims to come forward, give their truth, put context to their situations when so much of it was ripped out, and we just the world was going for the salacious headlines, and they really had the time to tell their story. Yeah, and the film takes us way behind the PR or propaganda machine. You see Diddy the day he's finding out about new suits against him while he's in New York preparing for a possible criminal arrest. This is another moment from the video that 50 said he won't tell us where he got it.
Dean Deal also says he declined to participate in the project because he and several others he considered key witnesses were not offered proper compensation. According to Deal, he felt their perspectives were essential to telling the full story. When those terms were rejected, he chose to step away. Deal believes that decision contributed to what he sees as a cleaner, more controlled version of events being presented to the public. For him, the issue is not simply about money. It's about how history is recorded and who gets to shape the narrative. He argues that when documentaries avoid uncomfortable truths, they often end up protecting powerful systems instead of exposing them. In Deal's view, leaving out difficult details prevents audiences from fully understanding how influence and accountability actually work in the entertainment industry. Because of that, many people now look back at Katt Williams' widely discussed 2024 interview on Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharpe and say it feels almost prophetic to some observers today.
All of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is. TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
Dean Deal also draws connections between the warnings and humor shared by Katt Williams and what later unfolded around scene Diddy Combs. During his widely discussed 2024 appearance on Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharpe, Williams didn't make direct accusations against most of the people he mentioned. Instead, he delivered what he described as jabs, comments layered with implication rather than outright claims. In that conversation, Williams referenced several prominent figures, including Jay-Z, Steve Harvey, Tyler Perry, and Kevin Hart. He did not label them as criminals, but suggested that some individuals in the industry may have benefited from proximity, silence, or the protective influence of powerful networks. Williams implied that certain careers were boosted through relationships connected to Diddy's sphere of influence. Deal cautiously echoes part of that idea. He emphasizes that he cannot prove wrongdoing by those individuals, and as of January 2026, no criminal charges have been filed against them. However, he claims that many influential figures attended private gatherings, accepted favors, or chose not to speak out when they might have had the opportunity to do so. One of the more unsettling suggestions raised by both Deal and Williams involves the possibility of recordings. They argue that fear, rather than loyalty, may have kept many people silent, whether that fear was based on real leverage or exaggerated rumors. The idea that silence could be tied to potential exposure has led some audiences to reconsider how celebrity friendships and alliances operate behind the scenes. Now that Diddy has been sentenced, Deal believes many people within the industry are feeling uneasy. not necessarily because they committed crimes, but because they know what they witnessed or ignored. In today's public climate, he says, silence itself can sometimes be interpreted as guilt. Deal often returns to one central theme. While Diddy's influence grew, many people around him suffered consequences. He points to artists like Craig Mack and Black Rob as examples of talented performers who, in his view, were eventually sidelined or forgotten. He also revisits the death of the notorious B.I.G., suggesting that a mix of ego, unresolved conflicts, and poor decisions helped create dangerous circumstances. Deal further mentions Anthony Wolf Jones, claiming that financial disputes and personal conflicts produced long-lasting repercussions. He frames these situations not as isolated incidents but as patterns he believes were present throughout that era of the music industry. It is important to note that these remain allegations and personal interpretations rather than proven conclusions. In one emotional recollection, Deal describes a moment when he felt something bad might happen and tried to intervene. He says he warned people about attending a particular party and even attempted to stay close to protect someone involved. According to Deal, he was pressured to get into a car and reminded that refusing could cost him his job with Bad Boy Records. Looking back, he expresses regret, saying he wishes he had ignored the pressure and followed his instincts, because, as he recalls, that night ultimately cost someone their life.
This kid told me his life story, bro. I tried to stop these people from going to the party. It was his decision. You understand? That cost that kid his life. Even when I tried to ride on the side of the fucking truck, he gonna tell me, yo, Gene, if you don't get in this car, you ain't gonna never work again for Bad Boy. I should have said, F Bad Boy, and did what I knew to do. You understand? That kid lost his life. It wasn't my watch, but I was there. He had his own bodyguards, but I still was there. I knew something was going to go down. I was willing to ride on the side of the damn car so I could save this kid's life. Now, my man go to him, ASAP Ferg's father. He goes to him. Yo, Puff, blase, whoop-de-whoop. I gotta have this, or these guys it's gonna be a problem in the street. Here go this. You can use this until I can get it back to him. This nigga said, what? I can't do that. Understandable, whatever the situation was. My man died the day after my birthday. Turns around, tell Wolf, I'm gonna give you your $300,000. Wolf is the one who brought me back into Bad Boy, or brought me back into Bad Boy, because I was there before Wolf himself. Wolf's mother let me hear something that the the drug enforcement, the prosecutor from Atlanta, that Puff told Meech, go ahead and do what you got to do, when him and Wolf and them was beefing outside. I heard Wolf say out of his mouth, I'ma show you them niggas ain't that. I knew he was building up the atmosphere between Meech and Wolf to go at it. Do you hear me? Wolf get killed by some kids from BMF. Actually, the dude that he put down with BMF. This nigga brags about cussing Wolf's mother out. And I'm going to call his name out. He bragged to his cousin, Ak. So you niggas in New York, if y'all don't believe what I'm saying, ask Ak. If Wolf was alive, the way he loved his mother, we wouldn't be talking about Diddy today. I say this dude, even after all that, I still say this nigga.
According to him, seeing Diddy comms often placed image and control above people. Gene Deal claims that once someone was no longer useful to the brand or the business, they were quietly pushed aside. In Deal's view, this is the part of the legacy many people avoid discussing. Now that Diddy is serving his sentence, Deal believes the conversation should not end with punishment alone. Instead, he argues that the moment should prompt deeper reflection, questions about who benefited from the system, who chose to remain silent, and who ultimately paid the price. As Deal's claims continue circulating publicly, attention has begun shifting toward the wider circle of celebrities who were frequently linked, directly or indirectly, to Diddy's private gatherings. Over the years, these events have often been described as more than simple parties. According to various accounts, they were invitation-only environments where power, influence, and opportunity quietly intersected behind closed doors.
He got off. See, I didn't talk about Tyler Perry. I didn't really talk about Puffy. It's some stuff I'd be like, okay, let me see what happened with this. Because I don't want to be one of them people who say this about somebody and then have to eat crow later on.
Right, right.
Let me give you some examples. There was something going on when we had that discussion about Chris Webber.
Right.
I didn't say much about Chris Webber. I talked about fucking people's wives.
Right.
Then people were saying Corey said something about Chris Webber.
Right.
And I didn't really say nothing about Chris Webber like that except giving praise because I only know Chris Webber from hooping. And I used to hoop, so I look up to them guys. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But Chris Webber never said I didn't that nigga away.
Right.
There's things in the news about Tyler Perry.
I'm not gay no more.
I want to tell Tyler Perry this. I would love to come work for you, Tyler Perry.
Who's next? Y'all don't see the lineup? Yeah, we see the lineup. I'm just waiting to see who's next. Jay-Z is setting Diddy up. Why is everyone having such a hard time? He ain't doing shit different. He lined up D. Haven, stole his life and identity. He lined up Big L, stole his life and identity. He lined up Dame Dash, stole his life, identity, and took his love. Lined up R. Kelly. He wants to be the one.
Yeah, shout out D. Haven. He actually hit us up, wanted to tell this story.
You need to talk to D. Haven.
Yeah, we need to talk to him.
I told you that last year when I put you on the phone with him.
You did.
I want you to think about this. Allegedly, Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Katt Williams to put Aaliyah on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him. And so he could level up Beyonce, who was struggling. Let's just say allegedly that happened. Now I want you to think about 106th and Park with Mary J. Blige. Free, who is a victim of Sean Carter.
Yeah.
Mary J. Blige, who is a victim of Sean Combs, are sitting there talking about the death of Aaliyah amongst each other. Think about that. You got a Diddy victim, you got a Jay-Z victim, and you got a superstar gone. They know what happened. And yet, they had to sit there and have that conversation like they didn't know who did it.
Diddy was a big part of this culture. You know, his after parties, were a part of the BET experience. So, life comes at you fast, but, Kevin had to address the elephant in the room.
By the way, we should say, the Diddy after parties that happen after award shows, that's not what the trial is about. Those weren't freak-offs. The trial is something separate, but still, nobody wanted to be seen as laughing at him. There were some icon awards handed out.
Public commentary has also mentioned figures such as Jay-Z, Kevin Hart, Tyler Perry, Ludacris, and Steve Harvey. They are not being cited because of proven crimes, but because of their proximity to seeing Diddy comms during important stages of their careers. Some critics argue that simply attending certain gatherings became an unspoken understanding within the industry. Show up, stay quiet, and opportunities might follow. However, Gene Deal does not accuse these individuals of illegal behavior. Instead, he suggests that many people may have benefited from an environment where questioning powerful figures was discouraged. Katt Williams also addressed these connections in his 2024 appearance on Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharpe. Williams framed the relationships as strategic, hinting that advancement in the entertainment world sometimes followed loyalty and alliances rather than pure merit. Rumors about hidden cameras, private recordings, and potential leverage have further fueled speculation, even though no concrete evidence has been publicly confirmed. In that atmosphere, silence itself became a kind of currency. Some individuals reportedly maintained public distance while staying privately connected, viewing that balance as a way to survive in a competitive industry. Others, critics say, appeared to create distance only after Diddy's legal troubles became unavoidable. As of January 2026, none of the celebrities mentioned in these discussions faced charges related to Diddy's gatherings, and the allegations remain unproven. Even so, public perception has begun to shift. Many fans are revisiting old interviews, jokes, and collaborations with a new perspective, questioning whether certain successes were driven entirely by talent or quietly supported by proximity to power. Ultimately, the broader controversy has become less about what may or may not have happened at those gatherings and more about what people might have been willing to overlook in order to protect their place within the industry.
Understand, for the atmosphere that he put those kids in, you got a guy named Anthony Wolf Jones, who was from Bad Boy from its conception as doing security and being one of the financiers of Puff having to have some money to keep Big and Craig Mack around before he got to Clyde Davis. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't able to tell that story because they didn't have no intel on that story or what went down, or they didn't do their investigations right, which he also led up to the reason why Wolf ain't here today. You understand? They didn't tell that story. They didn't tell a story about Jessica Rosenbaum, who was at the City College situation. You understand? When it was Puff, Heavy D, and Jessica. You know what I'm saying? Jessica was the reason why those kids lost their life, because she locked the door on those kids running down the steps. You understand? You could see her name in a news article, but they didn't mention nothing about her taking place, but they try to put Heavy D, God bless the dead, out there and they put Puff out there. You know what I'm saying? She should have been the main one because she is the one who locked the door on the kids. You understand? She is the one who locked the door on the kids, and all those kids lost their life. Had she not locked those doors, not one kid would have lost their life. Not one kid would have lost their life. And that's what happened. I don't think it's only celebrities going to be shook. He had politicians in there. He had princes in there. He also had a couple of preachers in there.
You personally, you think they got tapes?
Well, my personal opinion that if Lil Rob could be trusted and his statements are true, they got him. They got tapes of stuff.
Gene Deal says his message goes beyond seeing Diddy comms. In his view, the real issue is how power can operate unchecked when no one is willing to challenge it. Diddy's 2025 conviction may have closed one chapter, but Deal believes it has opened a series of uncomfortable questions about mentorship, silence, and accountability within the entertainment industry. Deal often says that consequences don't always come quickly, but they eventually arrive. Careers may rise, the truth may stay buried for years, but over time the past has a way of resurfacing. That leaves a difficult question lingering. How many people knew more than they ever admitted, and how many stories connected to that era have still not been told? What are your thoughts on this situation? Share your perspective in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss future updates. Until next time, stay informed and keep it real.